Did you know that you can kill the Wither with iron golems? Or that harming 2 arrows have a bug where they deal insane amounts of damage? These are 30 Minecraft life hacks you should be using. So, Knockback is an enchantment that is often ridiculed. That's because the knockback can be very annoying in combat, since it's a lot harder to get consistent hits on your opponents when they keep getting hit out of range. However, since Netherite armor was introduced, Knockback 1 is actually very handy for PvP, since with the Netherite's knockback reduction, you take the same amount of knockback you would without Netherite when hit with a Knockback 1 sword. This means it's easier to combo your opponent. So at first glance, instant harming 2 arrows seem like any other. Pull back your bow, shoot, and deal a decent amount of damage, not being as high as a sword's damage per second though. Yet due to a bug in Minecraft, when you pull back your bow as little as possible when using instant harming 2 arrows, it deals insane amounts of damage, being able to 5-shot a player in full protection 4 Netherite armor. Even though sharpness is universally considered the best damage enchantment, this may actually not be the case when it comes to PvE. While yes, Smite doesn't affect everything, it affects a lot more than you'd think. Zombies, skeletons, zombie piglins, wither skeletons are only scratching the surface, and when it comes to PvE, Smite may just beat sharpness, a Smite 5 Netherite sword being able to one-shot all aforementioned mobs without even the need for a crit. While the rise of LifeSteal servers may have led to you already knowing this, TNT Minecarts are incredibly powerful when it comes to killing stacked players in a trap. The reason TNT is so much deadlier and 5 iron ingots are added to the equation is because TNT can explode practically instantly when in a minecart. There's no 4-second delay like the regular TNTs, making TNT minecarts incredibly useful for the most powerful traps. While the PvP community already knows of the end crystal's power, many players who have more of a life may not know that when it comes to damage, nothing beats the destructive power of end crystals. A single crystal being able to one-shot a player with full protection 4 Netherite armor. And while they're a bit tricky to master, it is certainly possible. Netherite actually isn't very good. Now, that isn't true. Netherite is very good, better than diamond. But is it that much better to justify spending the time to get it? Not necessarily. Netherite isn't much better than diamond, especially in PvE, and diamond will be more than good enough. So make sure to have Netherite low on your priority list. This one is quite easily explained, but since explosion damage is calculated by how many explosion rays hit your feet, you could abuse this by placing something as simple as a block of dirt between you and an exploding creeper. This will take the damage down from death to about half a heart. If you can't be bothered to fight a wither, then letting iron golems do this is a quite safe, easy way out. Just dig out a room underground, making sure the ceiling is 3 blocks high, add some iron golems, and summon the wither, which will die extremely fast. While 5 iron golems can be enough, a couple more just in case are advised. Despite many knowing about this feature, it isn't actually used a lot, which I don't understand. Firework crossbows are extremely powerful. Just make sure to make your fireworks have as many firework stars as possible for maximum damage output, and you've got yourself an extremely effective weapon. Multishot is also great for this. While this one should go without saying, every hit you make on a mob or player should be a crit, unless you're using advanced combo tactics, but I'm assuming you aren't. If you don't crit, you're missing out on 50% more damage, which I'm sure you can agree is quite a substantial amount. This one's quite simple, yet has the power to effectively ban everyone on your server. All you have to do is cover the entire spawn area with lava, a 21 by 21 block area by the way, and whenever someone respawns without a set spawn, they will instantly die. And this cycle can repeat indefinitely, meaning you can effectively permanently ban anyone you'd like. This is already quite commonly known, but if you're sitting in a boat and fall any distance, you won't take any damage from the fall because you can't take fall damage in boats. Wearing a creeper head you got by killing a creeper with a charged creeper will greatly decrease the range creepers can see you from, letting you sneak by creepers without the risk of dying. So if you're that person who keeps dying to creepers, try becoming one, it may just work. When farming your crops, make sure not to use a fist or any old tool. It has been proven many a time that using a tool that has the enchantment Fortune will result in a higher yield of crops. So make sure when harvesting your potatoes to use your Fortune pick. You certainly won't regret it with a yield of more than plus 50%. As you may know, powder snow can fully counter fall damage, but the reason water is more commonly used for the bottom of drops is because powder snow has the problem of making you sink in it. However, if you put carpets on the powder snow, you still have its fall damage mitigating effects, but don't sink. Also, the carpets cover the powder snow, making your landing pad also look good. Furnace minecarts are extremely underrated. I think the reason for this is that people think it acts like a normal furnace. It doesn't. Furnace minecarts use coal as fuel and can push other minecarts at blistering speeds. This means tracks don't need powered rails, just push everything along with a furnace minecart. Raid farms are possibly the most overpowered farm in the entire game. They supply you with a practically infinite amount of emeralds, letting you trade infinitely, a lot of redstone for all your contraptions, and totems so you'll never die again. Definitely build one in your world. In early game, you don't need a big base, so instead of building a house, leave that for later when you're geared up, and just live in a village house. It looks decent and has enough room for everything, so don't build another wooden box, just steal a villager's house. And later, when you're geared up, then's the time to build a gargantuan base. Mining aquifers. This one may not seem to make much sense at first glance. I mean, aquifers are probably more dangerous than normal caves due to drowning. However, in 1.18 a change was made that diamonds, among other ores, generate less with air exposure and will generate more frequently with little to no air exposure. And which area has the best visibility with no air exposure? Aquifers and water caves. So you want to name your pet axolotl, or fish, or tadpole? Well, don't get hasty with the name tag, since you can also name tag these animals by putting them in a bucket and just renaming the item, this costing just 1 XP level instead of an entire name tag. The butcher villager is possibly the easiest way to obtain food. For just 1 emerald he will sell you an entire 5 pork chops, statistically the best source of food in the game, or 8 cooked chicken, also a great food source. So if you have the emeralds to spare, and can't be bothered to build a hoglin farm, just support the local economy and buy the butcher's meat. Did you know that you can do pretty much everything in Minecraft without even entering a cave? And getting diamond gear is one of those things. In fact, it's probably actually faster to use a Fletcher and a tool and armor smith instead of going into the caves, safer and more chill too. Not to mention there's no luck involved. So maybe think twice before going to the mines, your villagers might just have everything you need. This one is quite easily explained, but when using the effect speed 2 or higher, jumping while sprinting will actually cause you to go slower, so just make sure not to. Enderpearl stasis chambers are amazing for making a quick escape. How they work is that you throw an enderpearl in a bubble column in a way that it floats at the top, and when you need to teleport away from a situation, just have someone place a block that can collide with the pearl, causing you to teleport there. This instant disappearing can also be a cool trick to impress your friends. Don't get perfect gear before fighting the Ender Dragon. A lot of people do this, but it's actually completely unnecessary. The Ender Dragon fight is not a particularly hard one, and once the dragon is defeated, you can use the End Cities to get your perfect gear. End City loot may just be the best in the entire game, but if you already have perfect gear, it's a bit of a waste. Mob switches are possibly the most overpowered contraption in the entire game. Mob switches fill up the mob cap, a limit on how many mobs can be in a world at the same time, and in doing so prevent all creepers, zombies, skeletons and so on from even spawning, making your world incredibly safe. Despite goat horns being rather useless at first glance, it turns out they can be used very effectively to send signals to other players long distance. This is because goat horns have an extremely high range, people hundreds of blocks away being able to hear them. So maybe consider these as an attack signal in your next war. You could even try to have different horns have different meanings, like one being attack and another meaning retreat. This one is another quick explanation. Pressing F3 and B at the same time will show all hitboxes. This is useful for hitting boats when mobs are in one. You can line up your hit perfectly so you don't accidentally hit the mob instead of the boat. While scrolling through your hotbar may be easy, try learning to use your number keys to switch slots. While it may be very slow at the beginning, after some practice hotkeys will be a lot faster, more precise and easier than scrolling. There's a reason all professional players use them. While yes, it's quite slow, boats are the easiest and most practical way of transporting mobs short distance. Just place the boat, let the mob walk in, get in and row. Keep in mind you can't go up blocks. When you've reached your destination, simply break the boat and the mob is free again. Alright, and that's it for today's video. I hope you really enjoyed it. If you did, then make sure to like and subscribe because it really helps out my channel with the algorithm, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!